Welcome to Innovation and Leadership. I'm Jess Larson. On this episode, we get to have Joe Ferencz, CEO at GameFam. Joe, thanks for making time for this.
Thank you for having me.
So for people not familiar with GameFam and the Roblox world in general, if they don't have a 13-year-old son like me who plays Roblox all the time with his friends, can you explain why you've been able to raise tens of millions of dollars and what getting billions of views means to advertisers and brands these days? And let's just start with what actually is Roblox if people don't know.
Yeah, thank you. So our company is GameFam, and we've been around for about 5 years, and we build content on Roblox, Fortnite, and other emerging, what I would call user-generated content gaming platforms. We also run huge communities across Discord and TikTok and YouTube that are associated with those games and that content. But our primary business and the way we make money is by making and publishing games on Roblox, first and foremost, Fortnite, secondly, and then we do experiment with some other innovation platforms. And what these platforms are, I think the simplest way to think about it is this is YouTube or Instagram for gaming. Because if you think about YouTube, I think is the easiest example. It used to be to make and distribute video content, you needed to have a studio and you needed to have a distributor and you needed to get it onto some kind of TV channel or cable channel or a movie theater or whatever. Now, if you want to be on TV and reach people, if you want to make video content and reach people, you just make a video on your phone, you upload it to YouTube, and you can become Mr. Beast, who I assume most people know who that is, the most famous YouTuber in the world. And there's so many other huge stars who have come off of YouTube in the past few years, and now that's happening on TikTok. And Roblox and Fortnite as well are that in the video game space now. So anyone can open up the tool set for those platforms, can use a huge suite of graphics that are ready to go, and they can build a game and they can push publish, and then players can find that game within the platform and start playing it. So we saw this all going down. Roblox is almost 20 years old now, I think. But it seems people think it's like an overnight success. It's actually been around for a very long time. And I first became aware of it in 2016, and I'll walk you through a bit of my background. But we started GameFam in 2019 when Roblox was at 30 million monthly active users. It was 30 million monthly active users. Now it's something like 350 million monthly active users, right? So in 5 years, it's grown 10x in users and significantly more than that in revenue. And I became aware of it through some work I was doing. And I said, I think this might be the future of gaming. And increasingly, it looks like it might be a big part of the future of media altogether. So starting our company with that thesis and acquiring existing games from developers, running them more as kind of free-to-play franchises. While people listening may or may not know a lot about video games, probably they play Candy Crush or Royal Match or have a family member who plays League of Legends or Fortnite. These are what we call, live services products. It's like a TV show. Like, you need new content all the time. It's not like you put it in a box like Mario Odyssey, put it on the shelf, sell as many copies as you can. These are entertainment services. So that's what we do. We started by acquiring games and running them as services, and now we both acquire and make games and run them as services, and we've built a huge advertising network on top of that. So to give you a sense of the scale, we probably have about 100,000 people playing our games as we speak right now. That can top out at over 250,000 concurrent players on weekends. We have games that have had billions of play sessions in them. For example, Car Dealership Tycoon, the most played driving game in Roblox history, with over 2 billion users, or 2 billion visits lifetime. Twilight Daycare, one of the biggest role-play games on Roblox, with over 2.5 billion visits lifetime. Sonic Speed Simulator, based on Sega's Sonic IP, the #1 IP game of all time on Roblox, with over 1 billion visits. Does that give a sense of what we do to get started?
Yeah. And so you were talking about Disney and Moana 2 and why. Can you explain why they come to you and what you do for them?
Right. So this is a great example of the brand work that we do. So we do both licensed and co-development work for kind of major entertainment IPs, and then we do a huge amount of entertainment marketing work. And sometimes those things end up being part of the same project, or they have multiple facets of them. So Moana 2 is coming out later this month in November 2024. And as part of their theatrical marketing campaign, Disney wanted to reach players on Fortnite. We have a game on Fortnite that we developed called Abby. This is the name of the game. Abby, but on a bike HD. The reason it's called that is actually built off of an existing Roblox original game called Abby, but on a bike. Abby means platformer, like a Mario kind of game, but you do it on a bicycle. It was a huge hit on Roblox. We actually licensed it from the original creator and made a Fortnite version of it, hence the HD. At the end, this blew up to become the number one driving game on Fortnite, one of the top platformer games on Fortnite during its launch window. And because of that, we've had a suite of different brands that have wanted to be in this game to reach Fortnite players. So we did an Inside Out 2 integration to promote Inside Out 2 theatrically. We've done a Samsung integration into the game to promote the new Galaxy phone, and then Disney came back to do the Moana 2 integration. So now, instead of just riding on a motorcycle and jumping over walls and ramps, you actually drive a Moana style boat through a beautiful Hawaiian, Polynesian environment that we built based on the movie. And we are driving players into that, and it's all branded Moana 2 coming to theaters, and now players can be more excited and aware of the theatrical release.
And so, what was the Inside Out 2 version?
The Inside Out 2 version was not as, we didn't have as many assets to work from. I'm really happy with how the Inside Out 2 version came out. So in that, Moana is like a very distinctive world. Inside Out, if you know the film, and I know it very well, I've seen both a couple times. They're fantastic movies. They really couldn't be much better pieces of entertainment, in my opinion. And the Inside Out world is a little abstract, isn't it, artistically? Moana is a lot more tangible of a world. So Inside Out 2, you used the motorcycle, but you drove through worlds that represented each of the new emotions that were coming to Inside Out 2, right? So we had these new emotions. We had, and they're all teenage emotions, and most of them were not good emotions to, on their face. But the point of the movie is that they're an important part of a healthy emotional landscape, right? So you had anxiety, you had embarrassment, you had ennui. And so we built a color themed world with kind of different pieces of subject matter from the film. And you drove through that, and it said the same thing. Inside Out 2 coming to theaters. For example, the main character, she plays hockey. That's like her main kind of hobby. That's her passion. So we had a huge drivable hockey level where like there's pucks coming at you and giant hockey sticks trying to knock you off the map. And so that was the Inside Out 2 one. We also recently did a huge promotion for SpongeBob's 25th anniversary. So we're a partner to Paramount, and they're just, great to work with. We do games for both SpongeBob and TMNT on the Roblox platform. And when they have a major marketing moment like SpongeBob's 25th anniversary, it's not just enough to have players come to the existing SpongeBob game, because those are all of your already hardcore SpongeBob fans. But you want to make sure that you're keeping SpongeBob relevant. It's a competitive attention economy, even when you're dealing with an IP and a character as massive and beloved as SpongeBob. You still need to market that when there's an event. So for the 25th anniversary of SpongeBob, we did something that we've done a number of times for brand partners, where we build a multi-game quest on Roblox. So you have to do something in the SpongeBob game, yes, but you also have to do something in the Turtles game. You also do something in our driving game, Car Dealership Tycoon. You also had to do something in our roleplay game, Twilight Daycare. And if you do all of these things across 4 or 5 different games within our Roblox game portfolio, you get a special reward in each game, and then you get like a mega reward that you can use in any game on Roblox. And this players love this. Our brand partners love this. We can measure it. It's more than lean in engagement, right? It's literally hands-on engagement. And what our chief business officer, Ricardo, likes to say is that you get all of the scale of experiential, you get all the scale of digital with all of the direct impact of experiential marketing, right? Because marketers love experiential. If you ever go to Comic Con or you ever go to one of these Netflix immersive things, or you see a car in the in the mall, parked in the middle of the mall, and everyone wants to go up and look at it. It's great. But how many people does it reach? In a world where you need scale because you're a major global brand, putting a car in the middle of the parking lot of in the middle of the mall, main artery, you reach a lot of qualified people, but you reach very few people. What we're doing is that, right? It's like putting a car, literally, we're doing a promotion for Monster Jam in our driving game right now. And instead of reaching a few thousand people like you would in the mall, you're reaching hundreds of thousands of people daily and tens of millions of people over the course of a campaign.
Yeah. So, how does the revenue model work? So whether that's Samsung or Paramount or Disney, is it like per impression like YouTube? Is it flat? What are the different types of arrangements?
I mean, it really depends. We're a small company in the innovation space, so we really work at the behest of the brand partners and what's going to work for how they want to buy media. Sometimes it's a media budget, sometimes it's a non-media budget. I don't want to get too technical. I think what's really interesting right now is that Roblox themselves, right? And Roblox is a publicly traded company with a $30 billion plus valuation at this time, I believe. And they see in-game advertising as their next growth era. And so they have developed a suite of programmatic ad units, and they are out there making a huge push with a huge sales force in a way that a small innovation company like ourselves couldn't even begin to deliver on. Um, and excuse me, through that, they are raising awareness and they are building a standardized way of buying media in the space. But what you're looking at here, Roblox has almost 90 million daily active users. They spend an average of 140 minutes per day playing on Roblox. That's more than YouTube. Our last stat was 70 minutes per day on YouTube. It's more than TikTok. 110 minutes per day was the last stat we got on TikTok. So this is the number one engagement platform for Gen Z and Gen Alpha consumers. And it is a behemoth media platform, but it's one that advertisers don't quite understand yet. It's nothing like what's come before, and it's not as easy as just turning on TikTok and watching a dance video to understand what this is really about. And so what we're seeing right now is really, you know, the dawn of gaming as media. It's been tried for years, but the difference is the always on and metaverse nature of Roblox and Fortnite and other platforms like that, where you've already got, a guy dressed up as Goku from Dragon Ball Z standing next to a guy dressed as SpongeBob, standing next to a guy dressed as Rick from Rick and Morty, all walking on a rainbow bridge together to try to get to the top of the stairwell. So this has opened up a way for brands and advertisers to integrate into video games in a way that simply didn't exist until, I would say, now.
Yeah. So people today who are thinking about getting young people as customers, what are some of the rookie mistakes for people who want to partner with somebody like you or get access to that, that video game age group?
Yeah. This is a great question because this is like a total softball question for me because I know the answer to this and I talk about it all day. The biggest rookie mistake that has been made hundreds of times over the past few years by major global brands is to try and make a standalone game for your brand. What we say is every brand needs a Roblox strategy, just the way you need a YouTube strategy, you need an Instagram strategy, you need a TikTok strategy. This is where the eyeballs are for consumers under 30 years old. This is where they live. You need strategies for these, right? So everybody needs a Roblox strategy. Hardly any brand needs a standalone Roblox game. And you can go on a website that our company owns and manages called Row Monitor. It's RO Monitor. Just Google it, it'll come right up. And you can see on the homepage a list of the top 10 branded games of all time. GameFam's made 3 of the top 10 branded games of all time. And then you can see um, by clicking in the hundreds of attempts that have been made at developing standalone brand games from brands, ranging from Nike to Chupa Chups, trying to make their own video games on the Roblox platform. And you can see on this website, on Row Monitor, exactly how many visits to the game they've ever had, how many minutes per engagement they get when people do play their games, and how many people are playing the game at this moment. You don't want 2 people playing your game. That's like having, you don't want 500 people playing your game in a day. Now, that would actually not be a terrible result given the relative state of that segment, but that'd be like having 500 people visit your website or your mobile app in a day. If you're Nike, having 500 people play your game in a day is not going to, make an impact on your business. So let me give you an example. We did a promotion to help build awareness and interest in the Super Bowl on Paramount last January. And so we did a huge cross game quest across 5 games. We drove 75 million visits to the campaign for 1 billion total minutes of engagement and 350 million validated brand engagements that we could measure, report out, get data from, the way players are interacting with the brand. That would have made it the number 10 all-time Roblox branded game. We delivered that guaranteed in a 4-week time span. Now, that is a very predictable result that brings scale, measurement, and engagement during a critical brand campaign based on clear campaign goals. To me, this is good marketing. If your job is to be a marketer, this is what I think marketing is all about, is you develop a plan to generate demand and sell through of something. And then you find the places to place those messages and you measure and you see how it works out. Good marketing. Now compare that with launching a standalone Roblox game that may eventually get 100,000 visits, probably costs more than the campaign costs, and it'll get that 100,000 visits if you're successful over the course of 6 months or 10 months. I see people on LinkedIn and they're crowing that their Roblox game reached 1 million visits. Oh, we have a huge milestone. Our Roblox game reached 1 million visits, and that's great. But these are non-experts talking to other non-experts, because a top Roblox game gets millions of visits a day, right? So to reach 1 million visits for your game, and that's like saying our website had 1 million visits. It's not something that is a true, it's a vanity metric, right? And vanity metrics are great. We use them all the time here at the company, but overall, that's not what makes a business go.
Yeah, let's talk about that. When you think about the business, obviously I had time at Nintendo and Mattel and seeing different parts of children's entertainment and the toys and Ubisoft and these game world things that you've done. How did that inform some of the choices that you made that helped you, get over 100 employees and tens of millions of dollars?
I think that all of those companies are really good at one or more things. I'm very fortunate to have had a great schooling as I grew up, going to really, really fine public schools in suburban Chicago. I went to a good public university for undergrad, and I went to a great business school at University of Michigan for grad school. And I've been able to get opportunities to work in a field that I'm really passionate about, on brands that I love and that matter. And in each of those instances, I've really tried to take a learning mentality, to how can I learn to be the best creator? How can I learn to be the best brand manager, marketer, strategist? And so if you look at those companies, I mean, Disney, at the time that I did my MBA internship there, was writing the book on licensed consumer products, right? It was the Hannah Montana High School Musical era, and they had just invented Disney Princess. The story that I remember hearing was that until Disney Princess, they were not allowed to like put Belle and Jasmine and um, and Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella all in the same place, right? Those princesses like couldn't interact or kind of be part of a cohesive whole. And they said, and if you look at the early products, the princesses never make eye contact. I haven't validated that, but I heard that. And so this was a huge innovation. Oh, let's put all the princesses together and brand it Disney Princess, and it was just exploding, right? So huge amount of thoughtful management of characters and intellectual property in a way that consumers and fans loved, and that generated value for the company. And that was a great lesson. Nintendo, the care and that they take with their brands and the quality that they bring in their products is unmatched, right? There's only one umbrella brand in the video game business, in my opinion, and it's Nintendo. And when you know that something's a Nintendo game, you know it's going to deliver a certain amount of charm and whimsy and thoughtfulness of design, and how they've focused on innovations that they truly believe in rather than chasing trends. Amazing learnings, an incredible organization, over 100-year-old company there. And then Ubisoft is simply the best at launching, or has been for years, the best at launching new video game IPs. They had, and this is something that I really was able to carry forward, I think, into GameFam, was they have a really clear vision on what each product does. Each product needs to bring a specific innovation to the market. Do they all work? Of course not. This is the entertainment business. It's a moving target. No one hits 100%. But they had a really clear POV, and it was really simple and powerful why they thought each game and each IP would find a place in the market. And for years, they were just phenomenal at launching new game IPs: Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Watch Dogs. I mean, their successes were really amazing. And also new platforms. They invested big into being on the Wii and the DS when a lot of other video game publishers on Nintendo's platforms, and they had a huge benefit from that, and that drove a lot of their growth during those years. And then Mattel is just a strategy powerhouse. Like everything done there is so linear. You have to be able to describe why you want to do what you want to do as a marketer and brand manager, and why you think it's going to work. You have to get that through a gauntlet of smart people, and that skill set is super powerful. And everyone I know from the alumni communities at all of those companies has thrived really in different ways. And the Mattel community is really strong at articulating business strategy and selling that in to stakeholders, right? So it's that mix of things that I try to take, from each of those great companies, and bring to our company here, and bring to our employees here as they grow, and we continue to learn and evolve together.
Yeah. Um,
And I
so
think, I think it's working. We just were named one of the best companies for innovators to work at from Fast Company. We've won the Great Places to Work award multiple times. We were just on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing privately held companies list. So I think that, that learning mindset is really built into our DNA here. It's actually in our culture statement, and something that we're very passionate about.
yeah, I can tell you've got that natural curiosity and enthusiasm. Thinking about building businesses, your $25 million Series A, right? Fundraising is something that founders and fund managers never tire of hearing about. When you think about one principle that helped you with fundraising, what's something that you feel like works well for you?
I think that sometimes, maybe to my own detriment, I try to be an extremely linear and logical person in all things I do. I like to take, even in gaming, and I love doing game design, and I art direct a lot of work here at the company because I have a degree in art direction from when I was an undergrad, and I love it. I always try to take some kind of logical principle to its furthest point before you jump into just like, do I think this looks good, or do I think this sounds good? And I think with fundraising, we've really been very conventional in following, hey, like we identified a new market, Roblox. We were the first company in the world to say, hey, Roblox is going to be a platform you can build businesses on top of. The way Amazon is a platform you can build businesses on top of, or Shopify is a platform you can build businesses on top of. Or Instagram, building a direct to consumer business, right? Using Instagram to do that. And the that story and using data to support that story. And then why do we have a right to play? Why do we have a right to win? So I've built my whole career personally chasing my passion for characters, for story, for video, for video game fun. And at the point I was at when I started GameFam back in 2019, I had just come off of a 5 year executive producer consulting role on the Hot Wheels brand um, at Mattel, where we had taken Hot Wheels as a IP that had almost no traction at that time in the video game space, and we had put it into 20 top games that actually led to an Xbox bundle with Hot Wheels all over the box of the Xbox, which was really incredible to see what we did by thinking through what is this really what data can we showcase to gaming partners to understand how valuable this is. And it's really that same mindset. How valuable is Roblox, and why did did I as a founder and with my experience, why could I build a business that could succeed in the space? And I think it was just a eminently credible story. What I find more confusing is how people who have no background making video games have been able to raise money to make video games. That is a much more interesting story that I would love to hear.
What's a rookie mistake that you think people make when, again, you weren't looking for 250 grand or 2.5 million, you're looking for 25 million. What's a rookie mistake when people start asking for tens of millions?
Well, a lot, let's be honest. A lot of the situation is timing related when it comes to raising money from venture capitalists, and it all comes down to the state of the IPO market at that time in a lot of ways in terms of the ability to deploy capital out of funds and how much risk people want to take. So I think that cohort was a time when where there was a lot of demand for investment. And so you needed a really credible story. And our Series A was not, our seed round was a grind. Like we were the first people to ever do what we were doing. And people kind of didn't believe it was even realistic or feasible because it had never happened before, which is a completely reasonable mindset.
Okay, I want to ask about that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, I'm a big Winston Churchill fan, and he's got this quote about something about the key is to be able to go from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm. And, that's the life of a salesman. And as far as I'm concerned, being a fund manager or a CEO is kind of being like top salesman in the company, right? So
I concur.
Okay. So when you think about, I got my first sales job when I was in 1995. So 30 years ago, right? So what that is mostly getting told no. Even when I'm, CEO of my own investment fund, it's mostly being told no. So I'm interested when there isn't all this external evidence to look at, like, hey, other people can do this, we can do this. When it does have to be so much more on self-belief. Talk to me about your mental toughness and what you would tell yourself, how you could go from no to no without a loss of enthusiasm, so you did get that seed round funded.
So I think that what was really important for me and continues to be important for me is to not just talk about ideas, but to execute. And so when we started the business, I started out of my own pocket, right? I started by making micro investments into acquiring games and then hiring people off of Upwork to manage and program out those games. I'm a producer, I'm a designer, I'm a product manager. I don't code. And I'd like to, but I currently don't, and I'm not sure when I'm gonna have a chance to learn. So that was really important to me, was being able to start out of my own pocket and have data, have real points of execution. And so when we went to raise our seed round, at that point we'd already gotten a little bit of angel funding from Play Ventures as a safe. So it was, it wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough to kind of start out of pocket. Found someone who was willing to put up a what I would say is a very small amount of capital at a global level to help further that traction. Um, and then we had a lot of data points we could show to investors. So I think that when you need to me, you have to have deep self-belief, right? And it's not easy in the face of all those no's to keep that self-belief. I don't think it is for anyone who's a feeling person, right? For a person who has feelings and who allows themselves to be vulnerable and to care. Of course, those rejections always hurt, but you have to have that bedrock of saying, "Hey, I've achieved things in the past." And it started. Look, for me, it started with school. To be perfectly honest, it started with school. I loved school. I wasn't the very best student, but I was a pretty good student, and I knew that when I set my mind to doing something, I could do it. And that's really the important thing. And so when you go out to raise, you say, well, I'm going to do my best, and I expect to at least make some progress. At least I'll meet new people. At least I'll get feedback that I can take forward with me. So there's always a positive outcome if you believe in yourself and you're doing something that you are suited to do in life. I think there's always some kind of positive outcome from that, which is why I joined the board, by the way, of a local nonprofit that I'd like to just share for a moment. 826 LA, it's called. We run in school and out of school literacy and creativity programs for Los Angeles public school kids. We're going to serve 8,000 kids this year in 2024 through these programs: after school tutoring, in school writing centers, field trips. It's all 95%, low income students. And I think that, as I said, for me, it started with school, and that's why I'm so passionate about giving back as education to education as a cause. Is because if you can teach yourself during school that you have the skills to accomplish things in life, you're going to be successful to some extent in life. Now, the people who don't do well in school and become successful, that again, this is the more. I don't think I have that many interesting stories to tell. My life's been pretty straightforward in a lot of ways, but those people. I listened to this guy the other day, Ramdan Tusani, I think is his name. He's like a world-renowned fashion designer and brand designer. And he was like homeless on the streets of Paris, and now he's like a global superstar. And I'm like, okay, how did you do that? That's what I want to know.
Well, I love that charitable work. My wife grew up in LA County and really, really rough background. She, says growing up, like the only people that she knew who had even been to college were her school teachers, right?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
Later, when we were married and I was in investment banking for Citi in Southern California, she had left Deutsche Bank to try and get my order of events here right. She left Deutsche and went and worked at a youth shelter where it was kids from Watts and Compton who
Wow.
wasn't safe to be at home. The state taken them away. So she would have them for a few weeks or a couple of months at this home in Huntington Beach, and she would repeatedly go take them to a college campus just to walk around and meet other kids and just have it not feel like this thing that only that you only see on TV. And
Yeah.
the university she went to, she just thought she couldn't get in, and one of her friends put the application in for her, and she got in. You know what I mean?
That's a great story. That's a great story. Well, I used to do the same thing though. When I was in my 20s, I was part of a local nonprofit when I was living in Chicago at that time, called the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs, and we used to take school kids from the Englewood neighborhood of Chicago, which is one of Chicago's most unsafe neighborhoods, and we would take them on school buses on field trips all over the city to the museums and to the parks, and just get them out of the neighborhood so they could see. And it was really amazing. I mean, when I say, and there, I met hundreds of kids during those years. Almost none of them had two parents at home, for example, and the type of challenges that those children have to overcome to go to a 4-year university. It's incredible. So it's really important to me and to GameFam as a whole. We just did a workshop through 826LA here in Los Angeles a few weeks ago, teaching kids about game design and helping them pitch game ideas and giving them feedback on those ideas. And we spent Saturday afternoon working with about 40 kids here, and it was it was really great. And so I really encourage everyone to find room in their lives to try and give back and help make the world a better place.
Well, let's have a conversation offline. My event series that I do, um, we've got one coming up about Hollywood and AI, and
Cool.
what I do is I like cherry pick top people off the podcast, and I'll invite a bunch of them to meet together. My partner Laura was, at CAA for years and would
Okay.
finance, 80 to 100 movies a year for the biggest movie stars you can think of, and then left and was the CEO of a film fund for a multi-billionaire family. And anyways, we've got some access to some entertainment people and some stuff. And I've got some
Great.
ideas,
Yeah.
especially maybe when we're going to be doing one of our events out there. Um,
Yeah, that'd be great. Both for GameFam and for my work at 826 is I'm trying to elevate the organization's profile here in the creative community because what we do is so valuable to engendering creativity in underserved populations here.
well,
So
I
that'd be
just have
great.
some ideas of like maybe we could get some of these very high profile people to spend a little time with those kids. Like we could
Yeah,
do like a, uh, anyway, let's talk about it offline.
yeah,
Um,
that'd be great.
I want
Thank
to go
you.
back.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to go back to one of the fundraising things you brought up, and because I loved your answer. This idea of going back for more data, this idea of like you need really strong self belief. It reminds me of this great quote from, I think it's Stephen M.R. Covey, the son, wrote the book Speed of Trust.
Okay.
And he says one of the best things to get people to trust you is to start trusting yourself. And so it's kind of about like overcoming your procrastination. It's about like, if you want people to believe you're going to keep your commitments to them, you need to believe you'll keep your commitments to yourself.
Yeah.
And that'll help you have this expectation that other people should believe you because you believe yourself.
Yeah.
And so much about fundraising can be about that. Is like, the way the human brain works, we know there's a mixture of our inner lawyer in the frontal lobe, the neocortex, that can argue both
Uh-huh.
sides of things. And
Okay.
then the brain
Yeah.
scans show that it's the limbic system, the emotional
Uh-huh.
judge that eventually says, here's how I feel about that logic, right? So it does take
Okay.
both. But my point is, what I loved about your point about data is this: I met with so many people who told me no on something that did work, right? So it ends up they were incorrect. But really, at that time, and I've been around on plenty of things. I've lost lots of money, made and lost money, right? But
Yeah.
my point is that there are many of these times when somebody told me that'll never work, no way, and they ended up just making an incorrect judgment call, right? But
Yep.
when they're the ones who can write checks for hundreds of millions or tens of millions, there's this status imbalance that makes it feel like, oh, well, do they know something I don't? Look at how successful they've been. Maybe I shouldn't have
Right.
my opinion.
Totally.
Maybe I should be questioning
Totally.
myself more.
Totally.
And there's an
Totally.
aspect of that is probably helpful to like fact check ourselves and whatever, right? But there's Guy Kawasaki who worked for Steve Jobs during the Mac, and then wrote
Yeah.
those great books
Yeah.
like Art of the Start, and he's brand guy over Canvas, has very famous venture capitalists. He calls those people the bozos. He said be like especially careful of the bozos who wear like $5,000 watches because it'll be like tempting to believe them, right? And he talks about when he turned down Yahoo because he knew better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But this idea of data is really fascinating to me because even though someone else is way wealthier or way more successful in some other field or something, if you are out there executing and you keep having data points and they have opinions but you have data, that just feels like such a recipe for self-belief of like, hey, you're entitled to your own opinion. You don't even have to believe my data, but I believe my data, even if you don't.
Yeah.
And it keeps going this
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
And so we can agree to disagree here. I'm going to keep raising money for this. And I get that we're not going to
Yeah.
get your money. But like, to me, that was a tangible thing. Like, it's not a, go listen to a motivational tape and jump up and down and like, listen, I have
Yeah.
a playlist on YouTube called like, I've got one called Mental Toughness and I've got one called More Motivation to like emotionally hijack myself to get in the mood to go
Totally.
do those things.
Totally.
But to your point of like, I think what I just really loved about that of execution and data of like, there's always something you can do without more money, whether it's more research, more interviews, more, pre-sales. There's always something you can do for free, and continuing to gather data and prove you're not just drinking your own Kool-Aid feels like a great recipe for self-belief. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think that if you know, I feel very lucky and fortunate in that I really love what I do. Like I really love making games. I love being part of this creative process. I love collaborating with other smart people and the magic that happens when you get a hit game like Sonic, or when we, watching our Barbie game go from, nothing to being the number 6 all-time branded game on Roblox, over a few months because it's a hit. It's an amazing feeling. It really is. And once you kind of lock onto that as being, a sense of purpose, I think it's really easy to follow along. For me, sure, money is an important part of life, right? But I'm not money motivated person, and so I think for me, it's really that makes it a lot easier. Is I have an intrinsic sense of motivation to do work that I find exciting, to want to contribute to the field that I've chosen, and to me that helps with a lot of that, right? Because I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I know it's important to me. And that is something that I think everyone who wants to be a founder or a strategic level contributor to an organization, I think a lot of people have that. I think a lot of people do, and of course, some people don't, and they're just really competent and good and reliable, and they move upwards within an organization, and someday they end up being the CEO, and I think then they do find it though. I think that eventually that you do have to find that. So yeah, that's my point of view, that's my philosophical take on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. Well, listen, if people want to check out the company, if they want to follow you on social, what are the best places online?
Yeah, I mean, we're on, you can Google us, GameFam, GameFam. That'll come right up. We're very active on LinkedIn. We share a lot of thought leadership pieces and data on LinkedIn. You can visit our website, Row Monitor, to learn more about the Roblox universe. And those are all the places that we really focus on. We're not very active on X, uh, but we find LinkedIn to be a much more positive place, I guess. So
That's great. Well, thanks for making
yeah.
time for this.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Really enjoyed the conversation.
You bet. Okay, bye, everyone.